Hello, everyone, from the Matt Moore's digital studio here in Fresno with the sports director of KC24 and CBS47, Scott Bemis. I am Dean Shiro. This is the Beem and Dean Show, episode 55. We got a big weekend of football coming up, including our own Fresno State Bulldogs hosting the Wolfpack of Nevada. And we've got a lot of other big topics going on, a lot of games and stuff in the college football and NFL. So, Scotty, really quick, just give me a little nugget on Fresno State, what to look for this weekend after going to practice this week.
Well, it's going to be an interesting battle between two quarterbacks here with familiar names, right? You got E.J. Warner for Fresno State. You got Chubba Purdy for Nevada. Obviously, they both come from great football families. So that should be interesting. I think a lot of this will come down to how well can Fresno State run the football, right? And this emerging Fresno State defense that we've seen so far, can it continue to stack up good performances? If Fresno State can go out and win a game like this over a Nevada team that they should be, where they're a 2-touchdown favorite over them convincingly.
Yeah, the Sharpies aren't worried at all. I think it's 13.5 to 14.5 at this point on most books. So
yeah, honestly, that seems pretty high to me. Just because I think Nevada, their record is 1-3. They have losses on their resume to Middle Tennessee and at Western Kentucky. A tight win over Sacramento State. But coming into the season, I actually liked the coaching staff that they had in place there. I like Jeff Choate. He's kind of in the mold of Matt Entz. Physical, run the football. It's a dual threat quarterback that Fresno State's going to be facing in Purdy. He can run a little bit as well. And, Nevada also has a pretty good defensive line as well. So, we'll see if Fresno State's kind of able to impose their will. Remember, left tackle for the Bulldogs looks to be out. It's not confirmed. It's not official yet. But Braden Walton went down against Hawaii. Looked like a pretty serious injury. Fortunately, he's been out of practice, walking around a little bit, but he's not been suiting up at practice. And so, they are going to be missing one of their key pieces on the offensive line. Do have an experienced guy there backing him up. But I think it'll just come down to, can Fresno State run the football well against Nevada? Because I don't think it's going to be a game where they light it up through the air, just considering that Nevada's been able to get pressure on the quarterback this season. Okay. So it might be a game where we see that ground and pound again from Fresno State.
Coming off the bye week, too, anything that we should be looking for maybe in particular? Any players coming back maybe from injury from previously or anything that we know?
Well, Josiah Freeman looked pretty healthy again out at practice on Tuesday in the part that I was able to see.
Cool.
And so that's a good sign for Fresno State. Of course, he was the number one receiver coming into the season. As far as other than that, I just think you're going to continue to see this defense continue to emerge. And I think Fresno State's pretty healthy overall, other than Braden Walton obviously being hurt. I think defensively, there's really been very few major injuries for notable guys at this point. You're always going to have some guys that get hurt and are banged up a little bit. But yeah, I think we're going to get a chance to see. This isn't the greatest litmus test, like I said, because you're a 2-touchdown favorite over Nevada. Mm-hmm. But, we saw them do this against, Georgia Southern, where they dominated them, right? And if they can dominate a team they're supposed to dominate in the Mountain West, right, it's a great sign for this football program.
Okay.
If they have to scratch and claw and this game comes down to the fourth quarter, maybe it forebodes of maybe some difficult times ahead when they have to hit the road at Colorado State, at Boise State, at San Jose State. And so that's really what I want to see. I want to see Fresno State come out like they did against Georgia Southern and really impose their will on Nevada. And if they can do that, I think it's a great sign that this team has a realistic shot, to make the Mountain West Championship game.
Okay. Well, it's a great rivalry game. It's been a great rivalry game over the years. So this edition of it should be no different. So, all right, Scotty and I are going to come in hot. All right, Scotty, it's our coming in hot segment. Topics we're passionate about. We're going to start with the Major League Baseball playoffs, something that caught your attention. Let's talk about managers pulling pitchers too early, especially with shaky bullpens, I wrote down. You're up.
Yeah, I think anybody who watched that Yankee game in Game 1 against the Red Sox yesterday probably was, on the edge of their seat as Aaron Boone's walking out, to pull Max Fried at that point, saying, do you really want to do this right now? Do you really, really want to do this, Aaron Boone? Because I mean, I wouldn't do it personally.
I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
I mean, I get it. Like, if Max Fried comes out and it was the 7th inning, I believe, right, where he got pulled, and he was pretty dominant to that point, right? I wasn't watching every pitch. I was kind of in and out of it, but Max Fried is your best pitcher at that point. He's your best option. You know, if you've got somebody like an Aroldis Chapman or a setup man that is just nasty or sick, okay, you can do it if you got a great bullpen. That's not what the Yankees have. That's not what the Yankees have. So, you know what? Go against the book. Go against the regular season philosophy, whatever it is. Play your gut a little bit in those situations. Let Fried finish it out. I mean, I'm sure that Fried would have loved to have stayed in that game at that point. I haven't I don't think I've seen any pitcher who's ever been happy about getting taken out of a game, but especially with nobody on base, Dean, 1 out already, you got the leadoff hitter in the inning. You're just kind of setting yourself up for disaster, and you're putting, to me, unneeded pressure on your reliever at that point.
Sure.
I think
and then you lose the game.
And I think, well, I mean, obviously it didn't work out well, right? So we're hindsight is 2020.
It is.
But I even think if you polled Yankee fans, if he had stuck with Fried in that situation, and then Fried had ended up giving up the lead, I think they would have been okay with it. Right? But it's, you know, in the 7th inning when you got a guy throwing a gem at that point, and he's in no trouble whatsoever. That's the other thing. No trouble whatsoever. And then you pull him. To me, you're just playing with fire, and you're overusing analytics at that point.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely couldn't agree more. And it's not just the Yankees. I mean, you've seen the Dodgers do it with Dave Roberts. You've seen other teams do it as well. You know, yesterday in the Cleveland Detroit game. The Detroit pulled their pitcher really early, like Mize. They pulled him like in the 3rd or 4th inning, and he was doing fine. I don't get it. So
I will say this:
Detroit ended up losing that game 6-1, by the way.
Yeah,
too.
Just to counter that a little bit, I will say I do like managers who, if I'm talking about an ace being on the mound here, right? A Pedro Martinez, right back in the day. Max Fried to me has been the Yankees' ace kind of all season long.
Agreed.
And he deserves the right, I think, to stay in that game. A Skubal for Detroit obviously deserves the right to stay in the game. You know, if you've got 2nd and 3rd starters who haven't actually, proven it, and it depends on the quality of your bullpen as well, right? You know, how good is your bullpen?
That's
how much depth do you have in the bullpen? But I also do like some managers in the postseason who see a high leverage situation early in a game, right? So like say in the 4th inning, like sometimes the high leverage situation comes in the 3rd inning. It doesn't come in the 8th inning, right? And so in the postseason, if you've got, say, your 3rd or 4th starter in the game and you've got a rock solid bullpen, that goes 5 or 6 deep with solid arms, I actually don't mind a manager who, with maybe 2 on and nobody out in a game where, you're going up against a team that's probably pretty stingy and not going to give up a lot of runs, of saying, you know what, this is the high leverage situation. In order to stay in this game, we've got to get out of this situation, and maybe going to one of those arms a little bit earlier. I think that's a different situation, though, than Max Fried shutting out the Red Sox through 6 innings, and again, getting the first out of the inning, nobody on base.
Yeah, but these are short series too, Scott. So they're 3 gamers. You got to win 2 out of 3, and like you said, ride your horses all the way to the finish line. So, there's just some questionable decisions in some of these games, but they've been great series so far, and we'll see how they finish out. So, I'm going to get to my topic now. I'm going to go to the WNBA. So, again, Kathy Engelhart, who's the commissioner of the WNBA. Engelbert.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
You got it right. Kathy Engelbert has done some really, really great things with the league. She really has. And they're currently getting ready to expand the league, to more teams. But you've got the star players of the league, calling her out. You had Nafisa Collier call her out earlier this week, calling her the worst leader ever. I feel like in some ways, like when you lose your star players in the league, you've got to really assess, whether you should be staying or not. And I'm going to call for Kathy Engelbert to step down at the end of the year. I just feel like obviously it's a toxic situation. You cannot have your best players calling you out in a press conference for all to see, calling you the worst leader ever, the worst leadership group ever, her and her team. So I'll let you comment on it.
Well, first off, Dean Shiro. calling for the commissioner to step down.
Firing it out.
Let's see if this gets back to the league offices with the WNBA, that Dean is calling for change at the top with the WNBA. I mean, that voice over there carries a lot of weight, folks, just so you know. You know what I think this is, Dean? I think this is a situation. I don't disagree with anything you said as far as it's clear that she's lost the respect of the players at this point, and that's a problem for a commissioner. But it almost feels like the rapid success that the WNBA has had, I mean, it is just ascending at a supersonic level, in my opinion, right now. I mean, both you and me we're focused. We're dialed in on some of these WNBA playoff games at this point. You look at the crowds, it's packed, right? I mean, the Caitlin Clark effect, but it's more than just Caitlin Clark. Honestly, there are star players up and down the league.
Indiana almost got to the final without Caitlin Clark.
No doubt. But Aja Wilson, right? I mean, she's a very recognizable face in that league.
Yep.
You know, and I'm going to forget a bunch of others, but there's all kinds of stars that are kind of coming to the forefront. And it's super competitive basketball.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's being played at an extremely high level. But I feel like this league kind of taking off at a supernova, level here when Caitlin Clark came in. It was already on the rise, and then Caitlin Clark kind of just sped up that process, right, by probably a decade, right, in a way. I don't know if they were ready for this, like the brass, the owners, because for so long, right, the WNBA was just kind of struggling to be relevant in any way whatsoever. Unfortunately, it was kind of sometimes jokes were made about the WNBA in a way.
Right.
Now, I mean, we're legit here at this point, right? I mean, and the players, I think, see that. And they see that, you know what? Let's start being compensated. Let's start being treated in a way like we are a legitimate big-time league in this country, which they are at this point, in my opinion. And unfortunately, I think the owners and the commissioner are still fighting those old battles, right? And they're kind of they haven't really come around to what that is. Now, sometimes it's a problem with commissioners as well, where they're really kind of employees of the owners in a way, right? So some of this stuff that maybe has gotten her in trouble, or, where it's got the players looking at her, is probably stuff that she's done from a negotiating point of view, because I know WNBA players, they've organized, and there's some CBA agreement that's coming up here in a way. But for her to say some things like she said, obviously that's not going to play well, with the WNBA players league-wide. Now, I will say Napheesa Collier maybe a little bit inappropriate to mention things that might have been said, in confidence, right? Behind the scenes conversations between Engelbert and her. But even if it is in confidence, or these are private meetings and private talks that are going on between Collier, who's a representative with the players union, and the commissioner of the league.
Yes.
You need to carry yourself in a little bit more of a professional manner than to say something like Collier she said about Caitlin Clark, for example, where she should be down on her knees thanking the WNBA for the platform, And I think that's the one comment that really everybody's focusing in on, because it makes her seem like she's kind of out of touch. Because does she not realize that Caitlin Clark was a megastar before she got to the WNBA,
That's right?
She was making millions and millions in endorsements. Sure, it's where she's playing now, but Caitlin Clark did not need the WNBA to become a star.
Agreed. Absolutely agree with everything you pretty much said there. I just want to say, though, that as bad as what Collier said in some ways, I think what was more telling, though, Scott, was the reaction from her fellow players, the overwhelming reaction of support, and no really truly support for Engelbert at all. No one came out and said, this is absolutely fictitious, Kathy's doing a great job, and I don't understand where Napheesa's coming from. I haven't seen any of that at this point. So that's where it's kind of curious, where sometimes, whether it's politics or whatever, you'll see both sides, and someone will come out and say, well, I support that and I don't. So that's the one thing I will say it's been very telling so far, is the unanimous support behind Napheesa Collier at this point. So I know it's early, but we'll see what happens here. We've got an exciting finals coming up. It's going to be a 7-game format. You've got the Aces hosting the Phoenix Mercury. It's going to be exciting. So we're going to be covering that more as we get closer, and we'll have a lot of plays on it too. So let's get into some college football now. So we've already talked about Fresno State, so we're going to move on. We've got some marquee games going on this weekend, and one involving a Mountain West squad. We've got Boise State, their marquee game. They're heading to South Bend to play Notre Dame. So we've talked about this before the season even started, Scott, that, this is their marquee chance. This is their chance to make their impact on the national stage. So what are your thoughts on this game?
There's no doubt about that. It is their chance, but I don't know how realistic a chance this is. Notre Dame is impressive right now. In fact, if you're in the futures market at all, I think you might want to take a look at Notre Dame in that futures market to not only make the playoff, but to maybe win it all at this point, because I know there was a lot of talk of after they lost their first 2 games that, are they even in the playoff conversation? Yes, they're in the playoff conversation. They're going to play Boise State here. They got a game later in the season against USC. There are enough games left on their schedule where they can make an impression and get back in the playoff hunt. For Boise State, this would be a huge statement win for them. But, let's be honest. They're nearly a 3-touchdown underdog in this game. And I think they're getting... this is the wrong time to try to knock off a team like Notre Dame, because I think Notre Dame feels the sense of urgency as far as, we can't, if Notre Dame was undefeated right now and won those first 2 games of the year, against the marquee competition, Miami, it was at A&M, I think, that they played. Maybe you go in there as Boise State and you kind of sneak up on them because, Notre Dame's kind of feeling themselves at this point. Right now, Notre Dame knows they have no margin for error.
They have no wiggle room.
And so I think they're going to be ready to play. And Notre Dame just absolutely destroyed Arkansas last week. I think Notre Dame could win it all if they get into the playoff.
The timing of this game for Boise couldn't have been any worse. In my opinion, it couldn't have been any worse, the timing of this game. So 25-1 is currently the odds of Notre Dame winning the national championship. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Wagerman?
I think in predicting the future,
crystal ball.
I'd sprinkle a little something on Notre Dame, because if they win out, I think there's almost no doubt they're going to get into the playoff if they win out. They're Notre Dame, right? And I know that the schedule from here on out is not filled with a ton of heavyweights, but there's enough there.
There's a few. You still got SC.
Yeah, you still got SC. Even Boise State this week, right? If you go out and you dominate Boise State, it sends a message, and there's enough time. And all these other teams in these other conferences are going to be knocking each other up. I think a 2-loss Notre Dame team is going to get in the playoff.
I agree with you.
And if you can get in the playoff at 25-1, honestly, I'm probably about, a week too late on this, right? I should have recommended Notre Dame before the Arkansas game. I don't know what their odds were at that point. I didn't look.
It was probably 30-1, I'm guessing. Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
Maybe a little more.
But they can throw the ball. This Carr kid looks really good.
Yeah.
They can run it. They obviously got a Heisman candidate at running back. Who knows? Carr could even get into the Heisman conversation at quarterback if he keeps playing as well as he has. And keep in mind, they lost a tight one to Miami that kind of could have gone either way.
Absolutely.
At Miami.
Absolutely.
They lost a super tight one to A&M at home as well. Another game that could have gone either way. So this team is 5 points away from being, or for whatever it is, from being undefeated.
Yeah, the number one team in the country.
Yeah, it pains me to say it as a USC guy, but I love what Marcus Freeman's doing there.
Yes.
And obviously didn't win those 2 games this year, but they're still very much in the mix in this new playoff format that we have.
Agreed. So a couple other big games. You've got Florida State hosting Miami this weekend. You've got Vandy. We're talking about Vandy football going to Alabama, playing a really important game. Florida hosting Texas. And we just talked about Notre Dame. So those are the 3 other major games this weekend. Anything you want to talk about real fast?
Kind of fun with Vandy there, right? Diego Pavia, who's in the end is going to feel like he's been in college as long as Chris
17
Weinke.
years, Scott.
Yeah. He's going to be 35 and still taking classes at Vandy.
Exactly.
That's a fun one. I know we're going to get to our dogs of the week here in a second.
Yep.
Might have something on that.
Okay. Let's get to them. I'll let you fire away first.
All right, so our dogs of the week, who we think is going to be barking this week. These are dogs that I think might have a chance to win outright in their games. So I identified 3. Florida State hosting Miami. They're getting 4.5 in that game.
Okay. You'll
probably hear from me on this game again when it comes to my plays, but I just think Florida State's a talented team. They've obviously rebounded from a season ago. Huge rivalry game. You're getting over a field goal. Wouldn't be surprised if this game is decided by a field goal one way or another. We haven't really seen Miami go on the road yet.
Yep. Games in Tallahassee. Yep.
Yeah. So I think Florida State could be barking this week.
I second the motion, so I'll just say that right now. Go ahead.
It's get to the window fast. Whenever Dean and Beam,
second the motion. Let's do this. Vandy. I second it. Stamp.
All right, Vandy. We just talked about them. They're getting 10.5 at Alabama, right? I mean, this has got to be one of the biggest games in the history of the program for Vanderbilt.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're right in the mix at this point. You got Bama coming off that win at Georgia. I mean, week in and week out, you're going to get tough battles in the SEC, but maybe a slight letdown spot there.
Well, and Bama remembers what happened last year in Nashville, right? They lost. They lost to
so
Vandy.
That's the one thing I think that works in Bama's favor is that Vandy got them last year,
right.
because
it
kind of gets their attention. But look at Vandy. They've won already at Va Tech and out South Carolina in impressive fashion this year, so they're not going to be scared to go on the road. So, again, I just think there's a chance Vandy hangs in that game, and if you hang in the game into the fourth quarter, who knows what'll happen.
Okay.
I got another interesting one that just popped out at me as I was going down the list of games.
Yep.
Do you know that Maryland's 4-0 at this point?
Yes, I do, but they're also, aren't they a home dog to Washington?
Yeah, they're a home dog at Washington off a disappointing, deflating loss at home.
Going cross
country to play Maryland here. Maryland getting 6.5, so you're probably getting around plus 200 probably on the money line, something like that. Maryland hasn't played anybody, but they did go to Wisconsin last week. And even though Wisconsin's down, you still got to go,
Agreed.
into Madison and win the game. And they won it convincingly.
Yeah.
And so, 6.5, I think Maryland could be barking.
All right, I've got two. One, if we're talking outright, I'm going to take Kansas State plus 6.5 at Baylor. We're finally seeing the Kansas State team that we thought we would see weeks 1 and 2. They're healthy now. Dylan Edwards is back. Huge difference. Now you've got a huge running back who can just power the football up and down the field. Avery Johnson's playing a lot better. Jace Brown's playing better. So I would keep your eyes on that one. I could see maybe an outright win there. And then this one's a cover, not a win, but Mississippi State getting 14.5 going to Texas A&M. Texas A&M coming off that huge win at home against Auburn, feeling good about themselves. Maybe Mississippi State gets an early couple scores and maybe makes it interesting. So those are the two I'm kind of looking at myself. So let's get to just a little bit of NFL before we get to our money plays. We're just going to kind of focus on one game that we kind of like. I'm going to take tonight's game, 49ers at Rams. The Niners coming off a lot of injuries. We learned on Wednesday that Brock Purdy's not going to play, that Ricky Pearsall is not going to play. I believe Juwan Jennings is not going to play. But let's be honest though, for the Rams, always have had trouble with the Niners. Even in Anaheim / Los Angeles, it will be a 50-50 crowd, but probably a very pro San Francisco crowd on a Thursday night. And the Rams have to play well. They have to show up and play well. They should win the football game. They need to show up and play well. So what are your thoughts on that game and your game?
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game. 49ers, Rams. I'm a kid, no longer a kid, but when I was a kid.
He's still a kid, folks.
Yeah. Look up here. I'm no longer a kid at this point.
He's still a kid at heart.
Yeah. Anyways, I used to go to 49ers, Rams games. That was a huge game. When I was a kid, grew up a diehard Ram fan, going to the Big A.
The Big A!
To watch the Niners coming in. A couple Monday night games I remember going to as a kid.
Yep.
And I think it was at the game where John Taylor had like the multiple 80-plus yard touchdown
don't
catches.
Remind
me. That one game. But it's a big rivalry there. Now, as you mentioned to me before the show, it's probably going to be more 49er fans than Ram fans at SoFi,
yes.
which is a bummer. But, yeah, I hear you. I mean, the 49ers looked all banged up. It's the NFL. It's so hard to figure it out. But on paper, at least, seems like the Rams should be okay in that one.
And your game, Scotty?
My game that I'm looking forward to, well, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say the Patriots at the Bills. That's one game I'm looking forward to this weekend. Bills are undefeated, obviously. The Patriots are 2-2. This game being played in Buffalo. We all assume that the Bills are just going to walk their way right through the NFC East, right to a division title this season. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but I'm just curious to see with Drake May, at quarterback. I know the Patriots kind of gave him a game at one point last year in Buffalo, too. Can the Patriots show a sign of maybe that they are kind of turning the corner here and maybe becoming a team that maybe can at least, give Buffalo a little bit of pause, in a game like this. And so I'm interested to see that game. Broncos-Eagles, obviously interesting as well. So are the Raiders at Colts as well. Raiders getting a touchdown there.
Yep.
Genty coming off a nice performance. And Browns with Dylan Gabriel at the helm. That should be
How about
interesting.
that? Yeah, Bucks, Seahawks too. Commanders, Chargers. We're not sure. Some of these quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, not sure if Daniels is going to play for Washington. Chiefs, Jags. The Jags have the #1 defense really in football right now. We'll see how they do against a Kansas City team that's going down there. So it's going to be fun. So we'll see what happens. But with that being said, we're going to get into our money plays. All right, Scotty. Well, September is over. October is here. We'll just show the results really
Please,
quick.
don't keep them up there very long.
I won't keep it up fast. I mean, there's mine for September.
All right,
I did finish over 1,000, barely.
Way to go.
Obviously, the WNBA helped me, and then Scotty and I were texting. Going to overtime helped me in that Game 5. Big deal. So finished with 1,028.86, and Scotty. Here we go. Scotty finished with a 0. He went for it. He picked the Bengals, and unfortunately the Bengals right now are not so good. So we're going to move on.
Regrouping.
All right, Scotty, go for it. You give us your picks because I don't have them on screen.
Okay, I'm regrouping. Going to stick with kind of what my bread and butter, which usually is college football here. San Jose State money line versus New Mexico this week. San Jose State kind of rediscovered their offense in that loss to Stanford. It's a game Dean watched. I didn't see it, but I looked at the numbers. I think they threw for like 470 yards passing or something like that. New Mexico's look great coming out of the box, but now they got to go on the road to San Jose State. San Jose State's 1-3. Hey, it's a new season. Conference season is here, and I think that they're going to show up to play against the Lobos. Only got to lay -135 there on the money line for an outright win for San Jose State, who was picked very high in the preseason, by the way. And so if you had looked at this line preseason, I'm sure San Jose State would have been favored by like 2 touchdowns or something, right? Now it's money line. I think that's too big of an adjustment, and so I'm going to ride with the Spartans. Florida State, already mentioned it, +4.5 against Miami. Go back to earlier in the show if you want to hear why I like that one. And then I'm going to go with Cincinnati here at home against Iowa State on the money line. They're a slight favorite over Iowa State, which is kind of interesting. -118 on the money line. All these I think are to win either 50 or 60. I sent them to Dean earlier this week.
We'll get all the numbers for the next show.
We'll relay them, and between now and then, if I give out another maybe an NFL player or something, I'll put it up on Twitter for you guys at SBemis online, and I'll let Dean know as well. But my thinking there with Cincy, real quick, Dean, is that I'm always think that the team that's favored, who's unranked, going up against a ranked opponent, that Vegas kind of knows something there, right? And I watched Cincinnati last week. I was very impressed with their quarterback against Kansas, and I heard somewhere that Iowa State might be missing both their starting corners.
Yes, that is out there. That information is out there. So I've got a bunch of plays. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. You guys can get a screenshot of this. The Rams, 6.5, bought it down, -141 against the Niners. 25 to win, 17-73, and I got a couple WNBAs in terms of the finals start on Friday night. I got Aces Mercury over 155.5 points. I think they're going to go way over that number. And then just take the Aces, bought it down to -1.5, -140 against Phoenix. They get the first 2 games at home. There's a player prop in there. I'm going to skip that. A $10 NCAA football parlay, Michigan money line, Iowa State money line. Scotty and I are at battle on that one. Clemson money line, SMU, and UConn. $20 NCAA parlay, Mississippi State. We already talked about that one. My poor Buffaloes. TCU -13.5 hosting Colorado this week. I just do not have high hopes for that. And then the Florida State thing that we talked about. I'm going to take Texas Tech -10.5 at Houston. Texas Tech playing great. I think they beat Utah by over 20 in Salt Lake City. So threw that one out there. Got another parlay out there. Texas Tech again adding that. Michigan State getting 11.5 going to Lincoln, playing Nebraska, and Northwestern giving 11.5 to playing Louisiana Monroe. And then just a couple NFL.
Going deep into the card for a little Northwestern and Louisiana Monroe action.
Northwestern beat UCLA last week at home as well. So Bills, I bought all these ones down points-wise to -6.5, under a touchdown. So Bills winning by a touchdown, Lions winning by a touchdown, Cardinals winning by a touchdown, and then I have another money line one in there. So I know it's a lot of plays, but it's a new month. We're going to throw them out there and try to make some money. Scotty, any last thoughts before we got to go?
Looking forward to another fun weekend of football. Hopefully get a few more winners for this guy over here so I can try to, give Dean a run for his money.
Do we have an FCC game this weekend? Are we on a bye?
Bye week for Fresno City, so I'll be out at the Fresno State game on Saturday. But yeah, keep in mind each week right here on the KC24 CBS 47 Plus app, got the Fresno City football report. It drops every Tuesday.
Okay.
You can also catch this show on that YouTube channel.
That's right. We got to go. On behalf of Scott, I'm Dean. We'll be back on Monday. This has been the Beem and Dean Show.